Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. It took 2 weeks, but the WBC champion Deontay Wilder, he sent through a massive $50 million counteroffer in a bid to make the undisputed fight with fellow champion Anthony Joshua. But now the clock is ticking. And Anthony Joshua and his team, they've got to respond quick smart, and I'll come to that soon. First though, I'll get straight to the social media post that announced the counteroffer, then to Wilder's co-manager Shelley Finkel on the details, a few quotes there, Joshua's brief reaction and Eddie Hearn's reaction as well, and then to some thoughts. Buckle in. Let's go. Deontay Wilder, he wanted the world to know that he was serious about an Anthony Joshua fight, and he announced his offer, the counter-offer, himself on social media.
Yo, I'm about to catch this plane in a few minutes, but Anthony, with your man Eddie and Barry Hearn, and tell them to check their email. I got something special for you. And by the way, all the money's in the bag. So I expect you'll be a man of your word.
Okay. I'll take 50 million up front. If that's the case, Wilder's team, bring me 50 million up front and we'll take the fight.
I'll see you soon then.
Talking to Sky Sports, Wilder's co-manager Shelley Finkel said a take it or leave it $50 million US offer has been made, and that's got a deadline of close of play Thursday, so that's been interpreted to be midnight, and that offer is the equivalent of £36 million. Huge offer. So Finkel says the money and the deal is in place. We want Joshua to fight Deontay in his next fight, and we offered him $50 million. If he accepts it, it will be there. Al Heyman and I have never not delivered on what we've offered. So the offer itself, it's a 50-50 split, and $50 million for Joshua is guaranteed. That's guaranteed money. So Anthony Joshua, he responded on social media with a post declaring, "Let's roll." His promoter Eddie Hearn, well, he's been a bit more cautious, describing the offer as a great PR move, saying, "We got an email from Deontay Wilder's personal email address offering us a 50-50 split with a guarantee of $50 million. He said that in an interview, Anthony said, "Give us $50 million and we will sign tomorrow. They've asked us to give them written acceptance of the deal by tomorrow." With all due respect to Deontay, I don't believe he has $50 million. However, if they actually send some formal paperwork and a contract along with further details on how this money will be secured, we will definitely have to take this seriously. We have a meeting on Friday, so let's see how real this is. And Eddie Hearn, he has also revealed that the fight date that has been mentioned is somewhere between September and December. In another interview, Hearn also said one of the things that would need to be squared away and sort of fall into line is how Joshua's existing rights deals stack up. So that's the broadcasting side of this thing. So essentially he wants to know that his fights can be shown on the likes of Sky Sports, for example, where he has deals in place. Okay, so there's a bit to unpack in this unfolding situation, and it really is unfolding quickly. First off, got to say, it's a big-time move from Deontay Wilder and his team. Big time. They've used Anthony Joshua's previous comments that he'd accept a $50 million offer to essentially sort of hem him into a potential deal, albeit a great deal. And this is the sort of deal that you take, because if Wilder's team is assuming all the risk in all this, and no matter what happens, you walk away with $50 million, guaranteed, that is a great deal. It's guaranteed money. And should the event go gangbusters, you end up getting even more. And I know that there's been a suggestion that Anthony Joshua actually meant £50 million. But the fact that he wasn't explicit, it sort of left scope for it to be assumed that it was in American money. Because after all, Eddie Hearn kept referring to the Wilder offer in US dollars, not pounds. But regardless of that, $50 million guaranteed. Yes, guaranteed. In my view, that's an exceptional deal. And because it is so big, does it really actually matter what the split is with Wilder? I don't actually think it does. And especially if his side, Wilder's side, is putting up the money. And let's hope for Wilder's sake that his cut also has a guarantee attached to it as well. And I have seen some people sort of suggesting that this deal will be coming out of Al Heyman's pockets directly. He's got the money and all that sort of thing. But in my view, this is the sort of case where they would have been pulling together a consortium of investors or sponsors, a collection of people who are going to foot the cost. You never put your own money in, but putting together such a deal, that actually takes time. And it would explain the sort of silence that we've had from the Wilder side since the Joshua offer to Wilder was made about 2 weeks ago. So I'm not convinced that this Thursday night deadline that has been sort of set as a take it or leave it, I don't think that's a complete deal breaker. I mean, there's no way that all the details that everyone is after could be worked through or verified between now and then. I think an assurance from Joshua via email or something similar saying that he accepts the deal in principle, but pending, different sort of details being worked out or whatever, that could probably get negotiations to the table on Friday. Let's face it, getting in the room on that Friday, Al Heyman, Shelley Finkel, Eddie Hearn, that's where the real deal is going to be done, and they're going to hammer all this out, get all this sort of nitty-gritty stuff on the table. And Hearn has indicated he wants to be talking with Al Heyman in the room on Friday. But before I go on to the next point, I'm going to have to say that someone probably should have sent a memo to Lou DiBella, looped him in, because really it could have avoided some unfortunate comments that he made the other day. And they are looking increasingly worse in hindsight. Because consider this, Finkel is saying there's a $50 million offer, it's take it or leave it, and a response is due by the end of Thursday. Lou DiBella, he stated the other day, you don't send something out and say, here's our offer, you have 10 days to respond. And at the time, when he made some comments on all this, he labelled that as bullshit. He stated, people don't make a deal by sending emails to one another. And the irony of this, because an email was sent from Deontay Wilder to Anthony Joshua with the counter offer. So DiBella, probably best he sits down, limits what he says, because he's putting his foot firmly in his mouth and looking like a bit of a D-bag here. As I said the other day, sending an offer via email, that's a modern business practice. And in this case, it's looking like it's really going to fire up these negotiations before a sit-down happens. And I'm sure there is going to be some people who do question whether the $50 million is actually there. Is it real? Are all the details hammered down enough for a deal to actually be signed? But to find that out, they are going to need to say, yep, we're interested. We want to sort of take this deal that you've offered us, take it to the next level, and you work us through all the detail. I think they have to sort of commit to some degree to the deal to get all that next stuff. Because without it, well, I mean, I think we're just going to, this could go back and forth forever. And $50 million, that's pretty hard to turn away from. I understand where Eddie Hearn is coming from when he says in terms of wanting to know all the pertinent details. But if he truly believed it was a PR stunt, as he does seem to say, well, call their bluff. If it's a house of cards sort of situation, it's going to fall over pretty quickly, and a lot of egg would be on the face of Heyman, Finkel, and Team Wilder in general. But I'm actually of the view that this offer is likely to be legit. It's taken a couple of weeks for them to put it together, and that to me indicates that there's been some planning behind it, especially now that it's dropped and it's of this considerable nature. That suggests to me that there's a number of backers involved in this offer. And it's unlikely that, in my view, that Eddie Hearn is going to be able to counter the counter offer with anything that's worthwhile, unless it is close to a 60-40 split of the profit that Wilder has been after. So Team Wilder, they've done quite a good job here of actually coming up with an audacious counteroffer that looks far too good to pass up. It's going to be interesting to see what happens next. And before I wrap this up, in some semi-related news, in this whole confusing mess that we've now got of 2 WBC mandatories, and it's kind of hard to explain this, but there's been some clarity from the WBC president who's spoken to Eddie Hearn, So just to quickly recap, so Dillian Whyte, he is promoted by Eddie Hearn. He's currently the #1 rated fighter in the WBC rankings. So Whyte has now been ordered to face 3rd-ranked Luis Ortiz in a final eliminator. And that eliminator will become a mandatory to the WBC belt that's currently held by Deontay Wilder. And then it emerged that it was actually going to be the 2nd mandatory. So Hearn, of course, he sought answers on this because this is highly unusual. And he told Boxing Scene that Suleiman explained that Brazil beat Eric Molina in a final eliminator November 4th on the undercard of Wilder's first-round knockout of Berman Stavern. And that was in the WBC mandated rematch at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. So the article, it then notes Hearn is saying it couldn't be true because according to Hearn, Suleiman sent him an email before Brazil stopped Molina that assured Hearn the Brazil-Molina matchup was not a final eliminator. And just on that, I would add that Suleiman, he publicly stated that it wouldn't be a final eliminator, and I actually reported that in November. And in another video, I also reported how the WBC had changed the text on its website from final eliminator to just an eliminator. Here is that screenshot that I took and used at the time for that video. And I have seen a number of people in the comment section of the last video that I did slamming Dillian Whyte, saying, what has he done to deserve to be the mandatory? But there's some sort of tunnel vision going on with that sort of scenario, because he's currently on a 7-fight win streak. He's beaten Chisora, Helenius and Brown in that run, so 7 fights. Whereas Brazil, meanwhile, is on a 2-fight win streak. Izu Agono and Eric Molina. So I would say to those people who are trashing Dillian Whyte, just remember the argument can go both ways. I'll leave it at that. What do you make of it all? What do you make of this massive $50 million offer? Would you take it if you were Anthony Joshua? Do you think the money is there? Where is this fight going to be held if it's accepted? Is it going to go to Vegas? What do you think? Drop a comment loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.